Hey guys, this is a part 2 of the how to read a health chart video. Today we're going to go into different types of people and so different charts and just how you would handle these cases. Now first of all, you should congratulate yourself because you've made it pretty much halfway, maybe even more than that, through the sales process of getting someone to take action. And in our case, we're trying to promote multiple things, both changing food habits and adding supplements on a recurring basis. So it is a big sale you're going for in the recommendation. This is whether you're making the commission or not. But hopefully you have influenced somebody to view some information or hear some information or read some information, but somehow they got to the point of asking you a sincere question, at least one question, which led to you giving them the chart, the questions, and now we've got their answer. So this is most of the way. All we've got left now is to read the chart and give our recommendation, whether you're doing it or you're passing the chart on to somebody to give their recommendation. We're going to give a whole bunch of examples here. And then after the recommendation step, there could also be a closing step, but that's a whole nother video. And that's basically everything that happens after you give your recommendation. All kinds of things could happen. They could say, okay, I got to go home and think about it. I got to go talk to the wife about it. Maybe I don't have the money right now. Maybe I got to read over some things, all kinds of things. But that's a whole nother ball game. And the first thing we'll do is I'll take the sheet and I'll make up what I think is a tough case to start with. Okay, we've got a 65-year-old female. This type of person is going to have a whole different set of motivations to a younger male, for example. So that just matters in how you're talking with somebody. Down there on the second line, we can see that she's got high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. Now, at 165 pounds, that's not very overweight. But at 5'5", you could tell she's got a digestive problem. I'm 6'2", I weigh about 165 pounds, and I'm surely skinny, but somebody down around 5'5" should probably weigh significantly less than 165 pounds. And I would guess that that's sort of the root of the problem here. Of course, nutrient deficiencies are going to be involved, but the digestion is where nutrients are absorbed. On the third line, she's had her appendix removed. I assume that's a long time ago. And she's also had a hysterectomy, which is her uterus removed. And that doesn't matter nutritionally, but it's possible it was because there was a problem there, growth or something like that, some reason for it to be removed. And the appendix as well, we assumed that it was inflamed because of a food problem, probably gluten way back when. You can't put an appendix back in, but anybody who's had their appendix removed should probably boost their antioxidants even more than our regular recommended levels, and probiotics. Definitely be trying to eat probiotics regularly in the diet. And I would also say bone soup. We always say these things generally, but the person with organs removed should go heavier on that, should go heavier on the bone soup and the drinking all the good stuff in the liquids, not overdoing it with foods, especially processed foods. Fourth line, is she on any drugs? She's on a blood pressure drug. Whatever the names were, you've looked them up and you've determined, okay, this one's for blood pressure. It'll usually say it right on Google in 10 seconds. And she's on 2 blood sugar medications, but then also she's on the worst case scenario. She's got a statin drug and a proton pump inhibitor, so a stomach acid lowering drug. These are the 2 worst drugs that nobody should be taking, and she's on both of them. Now we have to have a serious conversation no matter what follows next. Even our recommendation, we're going to tell them with a straight face, even if we're there in real life, that our recommendations probably aren't going to go very far for you if you stay on statin drugs and proton pump inhibitors. Now, blood pressure, blood sugar medication, since it's type 2, and since we can't diagnose, treat, or cure anything legally, what we can say about type 2 diabetes is that it was eliminated in the animal industry, started in 1957 with the addition of 2 key minerals, but really a whole host of trace minerals were added to their feeds, and all blood sugar related problems were eliminated back then. So it's the reason why our dog doesn't really get diabetes unless you feed it table scraps, basically, especially processed table scraps. But the point is, whoever put them on the blood pressure medication or the blood sugar medication or the statins or the proton pump inhibitors for that matter can decrease their doses, or recommend them to decrease their doses, so they can do it under the supervision of their doctor, or we can tell a person that it is their choice whether to take drugs or not. And I have seen people communicate with their doctors and get off both blood pressure and blood sugar medication very quickly, and they're not known to have side effects or withdrawal effects from getting off of them. and the doctor can always monitor the process if they choose to wean or some other strategy. But the statin and the proton pump inhibitor will pretty much eliminate all progress. The body requires stomach acid for the whole nutrient recipe to work in the body. It's a critical chemical reaction that must take place for just so many of the other key nutrients that the body will not work correctly without a strong stomach acid. So if you're taking a drug to lower that, the drug will do its job and it will prevent progress. I'm dwelling on it here because this is where I would dwell in real life, or if I'm even online. This is the point where I'm writing extra information about this, because everything else I'm going to say doesn't matter that much if they choose to stay on these drugs, and that is what they're choosing to do. They're choosing to fulfill the prescription. They're choosing to take the advice of a medical doctor. Obviously, the medical doctor or multiple medical doctors have them on multiple drugs. This is going to be causing all kinds of side effects in the body that's just going to be working against any nutritional strategy. And again, the statin cholesterol lowering drug will just prevent progress. We need cholesterol. These are essential nutrients. And they will continue to experience their symptoms, whatever they are, most likely if they choose to stay on those two drugs. So that's where we would focus a lot of the conversation on. But I would continue going on through the questions. Do they take any supplements and herbs? Okay, they take vitamin C and they take a woman's multi. Well, the problem is they're on a proton pump inhibitor, so they're probably not absorbing any of that vitamin C or whatever's in the multivitamin, because it's probably not breaking apart in the stomach as it's designed. There are tablets that are designed to break open in the intestine, but her whole chemistry is going to be off, most likely. And one of vitamin C's first main cofactors is iron, and that process is really activated in the strong stomach acid, which won't be taking place in the stomach that is on a proton pump inhibitor. Next, do they avoid any foods? They don't like red meat. Well, I bet it's very hard to digest foods when you don't have a strong stomach acid. So the person with a stomach acid problem, especially if they're on proton pump inhibitors, or they take Tums all the time, or they drink carbonated drinks all the time, they're probably not going to be able to digest red meat very well. It's probably going to make them feel very heavy or sick. And all meat is going to be difficult to digest for them. So they're probably going to have leaned towards more simple foods, probably fruits, vegetables, maybe even steamed vegetables. Down there at the bottom it says roasted duck and potatoes. A roasted duck or steamed duck or boiled duck even could be really tender meat falling off the bone, and that's easier to digest. Any food sensitivities or allergies? She's allergic to C-chlor, which is a type of antibiotic, which is no problem. We're not prescribing antibiotics. Do they have any skin, lung, or digestive issues? She says constipation. Well, any of those drugs could cause constipation, actually, but it's probably caused by food. She only said that she doesn't like red meat. That doesn't mean that she's avoiding gluten or any of the other problematic processed types of foods. And that would probably be the primary cause of all of the original digestive problems, and that would just be exacerbated by the multiple drugs. Doesn't know their blood type. Restless sleep, that is not surprising. That would mostly be mineral deficiency. Could also be a blood sugar problem. We already know she has a blood sugar problem because she told us she has type 2 diabetes. Was not born C-section, doesn't matter anyways if she's 65. She's not pregnant. She has 4 grown kids. She has 1 coffee in the morning. I'm not going to take that away from her. Never tried an energy drink. That's good. Her nails, she said they're polished, but there's no dents. Her favorite food was, again, roasted duck and potatoes, and that's good. And that also tells me that she probably knows how to cook and that she appreciates real food, and that just helps. It makes things easier. It's easier to convert that. All you really have to do is switch out the gluten-free flours and swap oil for either butter or ghee or clarified butter or lard. She likes roasted duck, but she can cook with duck fat. And lastly, she said 2 of her kids have diabetes also, and that's not surprising to us. Things tend to run in families, and what really runs in families is eating habits and nutrient availability in different geographic locations. So the same nutrients that your parents have available to you, there might have been more of them in the supply when they were kids, but right now they have the same nutrient availability that you do. So if we are eating processed foods and a lot of sugar and we're not getting enough nutrients, it's a double whammy. We're probably going to have a serious blood sugar problem in the end, or even younger. So now, what would I recommend to this person? I would probably give 3 options. If she has said, listen, I've listened to a bunch of the presentations, I've talked with whoever gave me these questions before already, I've even talked to my doctor, I'm ready to drop the statin and the proton pump inhibitor, I know the process for the proton pump inhibitor is probably going to be a bit miserable. I'm going to try and fast and drink a lot of water, salty water during that time, a lot of broth during that time. I'm also going to take a digestive enzyme supplement, which would have betaine hydrochloride in it or some other chloride compound that would help acidify the stomach. So she's already bought that over the counter. That's great. The thing about her is she needs to have a serious commitment here, because since she's only avoiding red meat, she needs to avoid many other foods, and she needs to be serious about that, in my opinion. And probably as her digestion clears up and she loses some weight, that will just happen automatically with avoiding the bad foods and clearing out the system either by fasting or adding in diatomaceous earth. I would recommend that for her. Out in Florida, she could probably get it $10 a pound or cheaper. And I would also, by the way, probably point out the good news up there that she said she's from Florida, USA. And I would say there's no tax in Florida or Texas or New York or New Jersey or Michigan and a couple other states. So that's great. There's no tax on supplements there. And you can get free shipping over $99 using AutoShip. And she's going to need a fair bit of product here, just over the first few months at least. But since she's got such serious mineral deficiency problems, I would get her doing both the digestion and nutrient supplements right away. She's already got enzymes. I would tell her to get diatomaceous earth. Those are both going to help her with the digestion. If she does avoid the bad foods, I would also tell her about the cookbook that we have, so everything she already knows how to cook, she can just get rid of the bad foods. Give her resources on cooking, especially our Instagram channel, Notus Foods, our YouTube channel, Notus Foods, and offer to continue to work with her just to help her out with anything that she might need to know about changing ingredients. The 3 price point options I would give her, the first would be what I call the budget pack or some equivalent, where it's a liquid based product. I like the Ultimate Classic because for the money it has the most nutrients in it. It's not the most enjoyable or the most practical product because you have to keep it in the fridge because you can't travel around with it. But it's very easy to get a high dose in, and I don't believe she'll be absorbing all of it for sure, especially she's been on statin drugs and proton pump inhibitors for a while. So giving a nice strong dose for the first little while, this is the cheapest way to do it basically, as we're immediately working on the digestion. And we could always change that. We just stay in touch. That's the whole thing here. We offer to stay in touch and help her figure out where she wants to go from there. Maybe she does want to use the powders after she's feeling much better. Her digestion has cleared up a lot. We tend to use the powders. I like the powders. Again, they are more practical. And they do cost more, but they do have more in them as well. And that would be the second price point option anyways. Maybe it is more fitting to her lifestyle to have the powders. Again, they do cost more. Again, I don't think she'll be absorbing all of it for sure. So to me, it doesn't really matter. I would just be going dose based. And in this case, I actually would be trying to downsell her because it would be more important that she'd be taking 2 or 3 shots, of that product every day, rather than taking multiple other products that she's not going to be fully absorbing right now anyways. And I would still present something like a mega pack, maybe even the detox mega pack, or maybe even the Ryan pack, what I call it. It's just got a whole bunch of extra support products that she would be instructed to take over time. Basically, I would get her started on the powders right away, but at smaller doses, really diluted. Again, because of her absorption, I'm just betting that it's not going to be very good. So for the first little while, she'd be taking very diluted doses and then working into the other products, adding in the extra selenium or the blood sugar support or the extra connective tissue, and then doing the 30-day liver detox in about 3 months' time. Now, you could give your own recommendations, but I would give her 2 or 3 options for sure. I don't know what her money is like. I certainly prefer the powders. Again, a lot of us do. But to me, it's not really about the money. It's about the money and the dose. It's what the dose she could afford. Either way, she does need to make a commitment on getting the proper dose and on changing the foods, because I'm betting that the dose is not going to work without those food changes and, of course, without talking to her doctor about those drugs. And that's pretty much it with this. Other than going in and closing the deal, handling any questions or objections, whatever form they take. That's not always the business of the person who's reading the chart and giving the recommendation. Often people will come to me and they'll say, hey, could you talk to this person on the phone for me? Okay, we'll go through the chart, we'll talk, we'll give you the recommendation. But it ultimately is up to the other person to close the deal and say, okay, well, which option would you like to get here? Let's look at all 3 of them. This is what they cost. This is how long they'll last you at your weight. Right, she's not 200 pounds, so if she rounded her weight up for the nutrient dose to 200, she's getting a really solid dose. Again, she's not going to be absorbing it all, so you'd want to aim high. Give the body the most chance to absorb the most it can. And a large part of talking to her, this 65-year-old woman, would be indefinitely letting her know that she can continue to communicate with us through this whole process. It's not going to take her that long to change the few food habits, and it's not going to take that long to get used to those products and to decide on your next round whether you want to change it or not. Maybe she doesn't like the taste of that one. Okay, no problem. There's lots of others to try. And for her, by the way, I probably would be adding a bottle of minerals if she bought the product from me, especially in Florida. That means we all get a good deal without paying the taxes, and if it's on an auto ship order, then it's free shipping. I can definitely afford to include some extra minerals, and it would definitely help her out a lot because the regular liquid plant-derived minerals pretty much bypass digestion. They can be absorbed in any tissue that they touch, basically. Even in the mouth, you feel that astringency, that sourness, that is it being absorbed right in the mouth, bonding with the water. It's pretty incredible stuff. So even if someone's digestion is messed up, they can still take that and still get minerals from that. Okay, we'll do another chart here. We will make up a new person. Okay, so this young guy is on the opposite side of the map. He's 18 years old. He's 5'9". He's 180 pounds, but he says he lifts, so he goes to the gym. And he lives in Canada. He has back acne, which is very typical for young guys working out. He's had a ligament surgery 3 years ago. I assume that's a sport injury or something like that. Not on any chemical drugs, but in the supplements and herbs category, he takes ashwagandha, shilajit, fish oil, herbal teas, and protein powder. And this is expected from people who go to the gym. They tend to already be taking some kind of supplements and they take care of themselves more generally. This also means that they probably will take the food recommendations more seriously. And as we see here, he already avoids the 12 bad foods. He's been doing that for 6 months. That means he's already seen all this information. He's heard what we have to say. And this is going to be very easy to go through for him. But he doesn't have a serious disease. He's got back acne. He doesn't have any allergies. He does have irregular, inconsistent bowel movements and night sweats and nightmares on and off, which those are a blood sugar problem. And I would assume the on and off would correlate with, say, eating a bunch of food at night or maybe drinking alcohol. Things that would exacerbate a low-level blood sugar problem. And he's probably eating quite a lot of food if he's lifting, and 180 pounds at 5'9", he's got quite a bit of muscle there. So he will have to be feeding that. That will be exacerbating any nutrient deficiencies, as will any sweating going on in the gym. He drinks 2 cups of coffee daily, freshly ground, which is the healthier choice, but hopefully he just started this because I wouldn't really be recommending younger people drinking coffee, especially not 2 cups every day. But 18 is the arbitrary limit where you're considered an adult, and now an adult male can have safely 2 cups of coffee daily, no problem. For showing the nails, he says he has white spots, or we can pretend that we saw a picture and it has white spots on it. That's a zinc deficiency, and that would actually correlate with the back acne or any acne problem. We would expect a zinc deficiency to be involved. Even if other deficiencies are involved, zinc is one of those ones where you could boost on its own. His favorite food, he says steak and curry rice. That's fine. He didn't put any processed food, and again, this whole list makes him look like he really takes care of himself and he cares, and that's good because, as we said, he doesn't have a serious disease. That means he doesn't really have the strong motivation to do it other than his own will to avoid health problems. And if he's been following us, maybe he recognizes that his torn ligament didn't have to happen. Maybe he was low on nutrients, maybe especially connective tissue. So we're still going to give him our regular food recommendations, copy and paste. Even though he already knows it, just give it to him again. I would recommend extra zinc, and he doesn't need to buy that from us. But unlike the last lady who has serious health problems, it's definitely a different tone that I would take with this person. I would still give them actually the exact same 3 options and invite them to look at the site for any other combination that they might prefer. Invite them to talk to us about it if they want, but they should be able to find a package that is right for them, and the 3 options that we'll give them walks them through the basics of what they should look for in the other packs if they do look at the website. And we can help them shop all day long. That's perfectly fine. That's an easy close, basically, in the closing stage. But for him, he doesn't need anything particular. And a lot of people in this business might think that young people are not really good prospects for the reason that they tend not to have serious health problems. But an 18-year-old male, he could easily have a lot of disposable income. He probably doesn't have many expenses, especially if he lives at home. He probably doesn't have a wife and kids and a house to take care of and a job that he's been working for 20 years and hates. And if he does have a job, he probably does have disposable income. As you can see by his lifestyle with the gym, it means he pays a gym membership. He's already on a bunch of different products. So he is already investing in himself. And those 3 options that we present him with should fit his budget. He weighs closer to 200 pounds, but if he takes a full solid dose, he still should feel it, but it is less of a strong pitch when somebody comes to us with an actual health problem. This guy's probably already feeling mostly pretty good. He already started diatomaceous earth, is what it said down here at the last question, and his digestion is improving. That's good, because I would recommend that anyways, because his irregular, inconsistent bowel movements probably just have to do with his recent diet changes, and he hasn't really figured it out yet, hasn't figured out the proper balance of it. I wouldn't say much about those supplements or herbs other than that, we can replace the mineral part that the shilajit is giving them and give a much stronger dose for a much better price. We can replace the fish oil. It's just going to be in our regular packages anyways. And they can keep taking herbal teas if they want. Or protein powder. I would just check the ingredients on the protein powder, make sure there's none of the bad foods in it, but he's probably already done that anyways. He's probably already done his homework. And any of the regular products will do fine to give him the 90 essential nutrients. I'd probably tell him about the sport drink, and in the larger packages, he has the option of getting the sport drink included in it. But that's totally optional. Again, I just know that the younger people, they're just a bit unpredictable as customers. They can be great monthly customers. They can buy their product once every 2 or 3 months and do fine on it, and they tell their friends that, I don't even get sick anymore, all that kind of stuff. Maybe they don't need the bigger doses that they would to repair a sick body, especially an older body. But some of them take the full dose and they become diehard on it, and they continue to not get sick and all that stuff, and they can be great customers that don't require a lot of attention. They'll pretty much figure out their regimen and stick with it. So his recommendations are easy, and we can go on to somebody else. So here we're dealing with a baby, 15 months old, female, 22 pounds. And you can actually just search what is the average weight of a 15-month-old female or male, and Google will give you the median weight. That's if you don't know what an overweight baby would be. It can be kind of hard to visualize. So for this example, I'm going to assume that I'm talking to the mother, and the symptoms and diagnoses here are rosacea, that's redness on the face, on the cheeks, eczema, psoriasis, which are essentially the same thing to us, ear infections, and colic. So I'm expecting a digestive problem here at the root, and the baby's probably not going to be eating much food, but there is problematic proteins getting in. It's probably gluten. It's probably from the breast milk, as it says down there, breastfed, some baby food, and fruit. That's good. We're not recommending to feed a baby grains, but the grains are getting in somehow, very likely. It says they've had no surgeries, they're not on any drugs or supplements, but they have used antibiotics in the past. That's again expected. If they have ear infections or any infections, they've probably been given antibiotics for those. This will weaken their immune system further and probably exacerbate any problem like eczema or psoriasis. And digestive issues, their digestion is not solid, so we already expect there's a digestive problem because of the diagnosis at the top. The blood type is A positive. That doesn't really matter here. They don't sleep for long and they wake up screaming. This is very common for colicky babies, and all of those other symptoms, they go right in line with colic. Colic is essentially a digestive problem, but it leads to babies that are very irritable, have a hard time settling down, and are constantly uncomfortable. This baby was not C-sectioned, does not drink coffee, that's good. Didn't show us a picture of the nails, that's fine. In the anything else section, this is something we hear commonly. My other kids calm down at some point, but she doesn't. Always screaming between short naps. And this is essentially the life of a colicky baby. So our prime recommendations here are actually mostly for the mother. The child is still being breastfed, and therefore it's what the mother is eating that is most important, because any of those problematic proteins are going to be coming in through the breast milk. So the mother and the whole household should be gluten-free completely. And it's the mother that actually should be on the 90 essential nutrients to her body weight. I would give her the same 3 regular recommendations, except for no detox. So whatever the bigger option is just going to be a wider variety of products. One of the other mega packs maybe that doesn't include the detox, because that's not for pregnant or nursing or people who are trying to conceive. Now, some supplements could be added to the baby, especially as they're being weaned off the breast milk. You could definitely add plant-derived minerals because there's no other food proteins or compounds. It's just minerals. And that could be diluted in water, severely diluted, or it could be added into baby foods. We do have what's called kids toddy, but kids toddy is actually designed to be added to a formula. Definitely check in any formula. Make sure it's gluten-free and oil-free. But you can also make your own formula. You can use kids toddy as part of that. But I would also use one of the bone building products. But much of this is beside the point. That the problem The digestive problem and everything stemming from it should stop if the mother goes gluten-free and the household goes gluten-free. It looks like they're feeding the baby correctly. And you can add all kinds of nutrients into baby foods, just like we actually do in the pet industry for many lizards, particularly geckos. Love baby food with some minerals stirred into it. And there wouldn't be much more to it. The sale would be aimed towards the mother, but her primary thing would be to go gluten-free. She could even add diatomaceous earth in to clear out her system and increase her own absorption, and that should improve the breast milk. But even in as little as a couple of weeks, they could start to see an improvement with those food changes, and that would be the bulk of our conversation. And invite them to stick with us and see if there's anything that we need to add or change in the future. And that's pretty much it. There's no other major problem here that we need to address. The problem is primarily digestive, and so that has a direct source. It's in the wrong foods, and they just have to figure out which ones, and it's probably gluten, so we can save them a bit of time on that. And so let's see another person here. So we've got a 35-year-old male. He's definitely overweight. He's got gout, a beer belly, acid reflux, and his sight is getting bad quickly. For surgeries, he said not available, no drugs, no supplements, doesn't avoid any foods, has no sensitivities or allergies. Do they have any skin, lung, or digestive problems? No. Don't know their blood type. No sleep problems. Not C-sectioned. Not pregnant or nursing. Does drink coffee and energy drinks. Didn't show a picture of the nails. Favorite food is pizza and beer. And anything else comment, he said, I was in pretty good shape until a few years ago. Well, it can catch up with us quite quickly. And so this is the type of person I'm going to imagine having a bit of a hard time on the food stuff. So that's probably not where I'm going to put my emphasis. I'm actually going to try and get him a good solid dose of the supplements and hope that the liquid-based ones particularly are going to be absorbed enough to help him. And since he is a beer drinker, I would be recommending to change that to something that's not carbonated, pretty much anything that's not carbonated. And you could Google and see what a celiac can drink. What's okay for somebody who has celiac disease. If it's okay for them, then it's probably okay for you. But I would avoid anything carbonated. And if they did switch to just gluten-free beer, that might help them a bit, but they should really be not eating around that time. And when it comes to gout, I've really never seen anybody who didn't have a serious gluten intolerance or other signs of a gluten intolerance. I know this person said that they don't have any digestive issues, but we're all not operating on the same definition of what healthy digestion is, and often people who have a bunch of no's in their whole list, they will probably be the type of person to not really complain about smaller things. And when we mean digestive issues, that could be a small complaint for some people, but it signifies something significant. So hopefully they will open up to changing their food habits, and we're still going to give them that information, and we're still going to recommend strongly going gluten-free because that's one of the biggest problems here. I would assume, given the beer belly and the gout and even the reflux. I haven't mentioned yet that when we give people our general food recommendations, we're also going to give them general salt recommendations, which would be to basically top up on their salt right away by drinking something very salty until it's too repulsive, because we become more sensitive to it the more we get topped up, and something can become too salty very quickly, but that's how you know you have enough salt. And be using salt regularly. Why? Because salt is the basis of stomach acid. So if he has reflux, that is a lack of stomach acid by our definition. And he's not on any drugs, so he's not on a proton pump inhibitor. He didn't say Tums, but he might have Tums. He might drink a beer after dinner to help his stomach feel better, and that's something we might want to mention, that drinking carbonated drinks might make his stomach feel better, but it's probably making the problem worse overall. Now he says his sight is getting bad quickly. That can happen quite quickly. People in their 30s suddenly realize they need reading glasses, or their existing prescription has gotten much stronger. Now my sales pitch for this person, I honestly probably would be leaning heavily towards getting them on a lot of liquids. This is what I would call the budget pack. In this case, it's not for the budget. It's because he's 220 pounds, so I would want to be getting a heavy dose into him, especially because I don't expect this guy. I don't know what he does for a living on here, but I don't expect him to be changing his food habits completely, especially not right away. I don't expect them to take it the most seriously. Out of the 5 examples of people that we're going to cover here, 3 of them are female and 2 are male, but in real life, it's more likely to be like 4 female to 1 male that actually comes to you. Females are the bulk of the health market in general, health and beauty category, they dominate. They are the bulk of customers for the health and beauty category, and they're also the bulk of the sales force of the health and beauty categories. And this 35-year-old male, he looks like he could even be one of my buddies, but that doesn't mean he's a great prospect for what we're pitching here. So I would be trying to pitch him something simple, especially the liquids, especially if he's a working guy. Again, we do like the powders. All my friends that are in the trades, we like the powders. We figure a way to bring it into our lives. But I think at first it is easier just to take your shot, or your 2 shots, or your 3 shots, or whatever it is. Even if you forget to do it during the day, you can do it at the end of the day, right before he goes to bed. Slam 2 shots of this back, and then 1 shot of the extra minerals. And I would hope that that dose would hit him really hard without any other significant changes, just because I would assume he wouldn't do the other changes. He's probably not cooking home-cooked meals. And it probably will take him a while to figure out how to eat gluten-free out there in the wild environment. Even if he starts eating gluten-free pizzas and beer, there are lots of things to look out to that requires a fair bit of commitment to learn about. And in his case, I would be hoping for a faster result based on a heavier product dose. And I wouldn't even pitch him on the bigger packs because they're more complicated. Those are for people who need a lot of extra support. And although he could use a lot of extra support, he's not going to be the type of person probably to take 5 different capsules a day, 2 different powder drinks a day, along with some liquid. It's just too much for him. I don't imagine him having that type of motivation unless this person is coming to you in the midst of some kind of epiphany and really wanting to turn everything around. Your best bet is probably going to be to pitch something simple and direct. And by the way, I would be hoping that as his weight comes down, and it could come down quite slowly if he's got a hard beer belly, it could take him months to really start shedding the weight, but as it comes down, any symptoms should be starting to resolve themselves. Gout usually comes in flares anyways, so we would just be hoping to stay on the low side of any flares as he improves gradually, and hopefully we get to work with him more and talk more and more about the foods, because any remaining problems that he does have that come up in the future, we're going to have to circle back to the basic message, which will be focused on foods. So we'll do one more person here, and we'll go for another hard case. So we've got a 45-year-old woman. She's 5'7" and 115 pounds, so she's quite lean. She's been diagnosed with cancer. Just for this purpose, it doesn't matter which cancer. It's a serious diagnosis, probably the most serious one. Let's see what else she's had. She's had a thyroid partially removed 30 years ago. Now, there's a good chance it could have grown back, actually, and if it hasn't, there's actually a chance that it still could later in life. The thyroid is greatly dependent on selenium. Everybody usually knows about iodine. Iodine is partnered with selenium and some other cofactors. This is all part of the 90 essential nutrients. And if somebody has cancer, we're already going to be recommending increasing selenium. Now, it's important to note here that at no point in any of this have we said you should do this, or even you should avoid these foods for cancer or for diabetes or for any health problem, because we're not treating a health problem officially or even unofficially. We're helping people get healthy under the assumption that the body can handle its own blood sugar and hormones, and a healthy body doesn't have cancer or arthritis, and we can support these systems in the body. So somebody with cancer is going to need a lot of extra support, and selenium is already one of the most important minerals, but particularly it is what we consider the master antioxidant, working with glutathione, which is an antioxidant produced in most of our cells in our body. And selenium, of course, works with other antioxidant nutrients, which we would, of course, recommend boosting when you have cancer. Cancer is a word that means we're not messing around here. Now, the good thing for her is that at 115 pounds, her baseline nutrients, so the 90 essential nutrients, is easy to do. And it can easily get overwhelming for somebody because there is so many things that you could actually do, but you could keep yourself quite busy. You don't have to sit around the house saying, oh, I've got cancer and stressing out about it. There's many, many things that you could do. And I would try and make it simple for them. I would try and put an order together for them that would make it simple, but she would actually still be getting the same basic recommendation for the baseline. Her budget would still determine whether she wants to do liquid or powders. For us, it doesn't really matter. It's getting the dose in for her. Again, her dose is quite easy. She's closer to 100 pounds. She doesn't need the whole detox mega pack, but I would boost selenium, zinc. I would add colloidal silver. They don't need to get that from us, but they should get a good colloidal silver, and I would be taking that. This is if it were me, and I would actually recommend my book as well. I usually would, Fake Diseases. I do have a whole chapter on cancer, and by that point I've led up and mentioned many of these other things that are going to contribute. And I say in that book exactly what I would do if it were me and I got a diagnosis of cancer. And that book is free here on YouTube, and they can get the hard copy. And people with serious diagnosis, it does help them to understand their problems better. So recommending a few books is a good thing. Especially, like I said, they might be at home just sitting around pondering this all day, so giving them a lot of information is not a bad thing, but I would still be trying to simplify it for them, making it simple that we would still be wanting to do the same basic things as everyone else, avoid the bad foods and take the 90 essential nutrients at least. But I would just take those things more seriously if I had a more serious health condition. And people should do it anyways to avoid health conditions, but we have much more leverage, so to speak, with people who have serious health problems. So everything that we're recommending should be taken very seriously. Because she says here that she's not on any chemical drugs, and the doctors want to do chemo. Then down at the bottom it says, I am determined not to do chemo. This is very common. We meet people, they've seen their parents or their sister or somebody do chemo or radiation. They've seen that person just fall apart and die soon after. So people know that their odds of successfully beating cancer that way are quite slim. Their odds of living a good life, good long healthful life afterwards are quite slim. And we can throw the whole kitchen sink at her. There are many things that we're going to recommend anyways, but again, trying to make it in a simplified package, basically buying a regular package, basic pack or budget pack or something, adding selenium to it for sure, adding colloidal silver. I wouldn't necessarily go that much further than that right away, because always the most important thing is getting somebody started. And that's good for you to understand, anybody who's pitching this to anybody else or anybody who's on the buyer's end as well. Although there is a long list of things that we can do, getting started on the most critical ones right now is the most important thing. Some of the extras can be added as the weeks and months go by. And in reality, once you get used to taking products, it doesn't take very much of your day. So you realize there are other things that I can learn about and other things that I can do, including, for example, circulation exercises, which would be one of the things that I would recommend to somebody with a serious diagnosis like cancer. I'm going to assume they have problems in every category, including circulation. And of course, we're going to insist on giving them resources for the foods, making sure that they know how to cook without these bad foods. In the book Fake Diseases, and in what I'll say to them if I do have a chance, I will mention mindset and how important it is to stay relaxed and activating the relaxation mode of the body, the healing mode, the parasympathetic nervous system. So there are a lot of things like yoga, and even if they enjoy weight training or something like that, or swimming, we should encourage them to continue doing the things that they love and keeping a positive mindset in all of this, because again, it actually doesn't take all day to supplement. It doesn't take all day to do circulation exercises. And there are actually other things too that could be added to the list, like radiation awareness, anti-radiation devices, leaving the city if you live in the city, going out to the country, to a beach resort if you can afford it, something that is putting you in the presence of a lot of negative ions, such as a forest or a beach, a cabin on a mountain, something to get away from the stress, both of the people and the buzz of the city and of the actual radiation, the cell phone towers and all that stuff. So in all, what I'm going to be presenting to this person is going to be very similar to what I would present to other people, except that we're again offering continued coaching under the assumption that these products are not going to last forever. She's going to take these and we're going to see what to do next. And a lot of people, if they're coming in with a serious diagnosis like cancer, and she's 45 years old, we're not talking about car money here anyways. Adding a few extra products is not really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. So she might want to go in and just add those critical add-ons right away. Of course, I would be recommending extra plant-derived minerals. And of course, I would be emphasizing the calcium product, whatever one she chooses, because we do believe that calcium is the most important factor for alkalinity in the body. And that's something that people widely recognize, that acidity contributes to the environment for cancer. And sugar is one of those things as well. We would add an emphasis onto the sugar part. Even though that's not in our regular bad food list, it's kind of something that everyone should be avoiding anyways. If you're avoiding processed food, you should largely be avoiding processed sugar as well. But if you have cancer, I would take that very seriously. And I probably wouldn't be wanting to bombard them with all of this information at once. I would definitely be offering to check in with them very regularly for at least a few weeks while they're getting started. And the whole point of this, the whole pitch of this would be not to, quote, cure cancer. Again, that's not something we're legally inclined to do. We'd be wanting the person to feel better, and that would be our primary metric right away. Now, this person is probably already going to be seeing a doctor. Obviously, that's how they got their diagnosis of cancer. So whatever tests they're doing to determine this, those doctors can keep doing those tests as regularly as they want, and that's actually great. They're the ones that will be measuring the progress for us. because the person can utilize a doctor or a hospital in that capacity and still reject the therapy that the doctors recommend, because we don't have any tests to offer them. Basically, we would just be going on whether they feel better, whether they look better, whether maybe their weight is improving, maybe she's underweight, she wants to get back to her more healthy weight. And we might not ever need a formal diagnosis from a doctor or even a formal proof that it was reversed if she goes in and doesn't have any sign anymore. It's very common for the doctors just to brush that aside. So that was our 5 people for today, and I'd be happy to make another video of this, especially if I get some good feedback, exploring some other types of cases. There are not that many categories of disease, in our opinion, so there's not that many different types of cases. It's more in how you handle people and what type of pitch you offer them, but you do want to offer someone some direct, complete pitch on what they should get started on. Even if there is a long list of things they could do, there should be a pretty clear list of things they should do right now. And that's your main thing. But for today, that's all I've got. Appreciate you. Until next time. And definitely check out my book, Fake Diseases. It covers all of the major topics that come up, like birth defects, blood sugar problems, bone and joint problems, cancer, autoimmune problems, and more. And it's on Amazon for just $9.99. And the audiobook read-along version is free here on YouTube, and the link for that is in the description of this video. Definitely get yourself a copy of Dr. Wallach's cookbook. This is basically a textbook teaching you everything you know about how to cook without the bad foods, particularly oil and gluten, and all of the other problematic things on the list. This is 300 pages stuffed full of recipes, every traditional recipe that you could think of, and modern dishes without the bad foods that they're usually made from. And of course, make sure to check out our food page, Notus Foods, that's on YouTube, and at Notus Foods on Instagram. We have a lot of content up there teaching you how to cook without the bad foods that Dr. Wallach describes, and Dr. Glidden's 12 bad foods, all of that, all of the rules that you need to know. And we have experienced chefs and bakers who will answer the questions in those inboxes. And I've also published a book in response to some of Dr. Wallach's criticisms, including the major articles that have been written against him on the internet. So if you are a Dr. Wallach fan or a YGYOntario distributor, I definitely recommend having this book in your toolkit.